Hello, welcome to episode 92 of the Circling South Sports podcast. This is the 28th installment of the Seattle interview series. We're approaching 30. I don't know if that's cool or it's just a milestone, but regardless, this is an episode of Two Charlies. This is Charlie Ostrem here joining me. I'm just going to go down the list here really quick. Two-time Surf Cup champion. That might be a little bit of a throwback. Pac-12 academic honor roll 19 as well as 2021. Scholar All-Region, All-American first team. All Pac-12 first team, all region first team, all American third team, and Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year all this past season. So a pretty big year for you. But I mean, since the tournament, how have you been? I know we got through finals. Now up here in the Pacific Northwest, we're getting some hot temperatures. So I mean, how have you been? What have you been up to?
I've been good. I'm just trying to get away from everything. Just hanging out with my friends and going home to see my family because I'm from Shoreline, just a little north of here, and just getting away mainly, like mentally, especially because it can be real draining, especially with the whole COVID thing too. We had like a 8 month preseason, so it was just good to get away and see family and spend time away from soccer.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely sure. Especially with the interviews I do, I try to not be so hammer on the sports talk, you know what I mean? Because I'm sure at some point it's just like, hey man, I just don't want to talk about soccer right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, that definitely makes sense, and it's always cool to see the local guys stay home. I know obviously that's not always the things that people choose to do, and that's at their own leisure. But I do think it's cool, when you say I go up north and it's shoreline, I'm like, hey, that's not that far. Um, but yeah, no, let's get into it. Where would you say that your love for the game of soccer really began? Was it, just playing uh, as a kid, or was there some sort of moment that stuck out to you where you sort of thought that soccer would be something that you would stick with?
So it's pretty funny because originally I was a huge Supersonics fan, so basketball was my sport, and I went to a couple games and then like obviously they got taken away from us. So I kind of had to pivot to a new sports. And then my dad started taking me to Sounders games because they were like a new club back then. And I just loved it. I like just fell in love with like watching the players and going to the games and like the atmosphere was so cool. And so I decided to try it out and I ended up being like pretty good. So I kept it going.
Yeah, you got some extensive accomplishments there in, I believe it was club soccer. But yeah, even to touch back on that, obvious. I don't remember what it was. It was courtside. I think it was Milwaukee. We were playing Milwaukee. So I do have a tiny taste of Sonics basketball. But obviously, with the NBA considering expansion, that'll be something for a couple of years from now. But I mean, it's better now, I guess, that we have a timeline. But yeah, like you were saying, especially with the Sounders, they have such a unique atmosphere, which is good to have, especially if you're a younger fan. Um, so you pivot there, and you learn about your talents in the soccer world. Uh, Obviously, as well, club soccer. What was your recruiting process like, and was there any difficulty in deciding where you wanted to uh, go to university, or did you kind of know that you would end up in purple and gold? How did that whole process go for you?
So at first, like I would talk to my parents because I definitely lean on like my dad and mom a lot for like decisions I make, and they were just saying like just keep your options open. And originally, I was like looking at schools like Stanford. I went to like UCLA camp. I like talked to Yale a little bit and stuff, but they didn't have as strong programs like I wanted. And I had like really I had met the UW coaches a bunch of times. I'd been to a bunch of games. I'm from here, and then like I love when my parents come to the games and like family. So I kind of always wanted to come here, but like I definitely was reaching out and exploring my options. But or, I always wanted to be a dog because I've always been a huge Huskies fan. Isaiah Thomas, all those guys. Yeah,
I can definitely tell the hoop backstories there, and I mean
yeah,
it fits because I mean Seattle has been a hoop city, so that is cool to see. But yeah, no, it is interesting, that you kept your options open. Obviously, Stanford and Yale aren't, even UCLA; those aren't schools to scoff at. So it's
yeah.
interesting to see how those, you take a look at them. But like you were saying, I'm sure that there were some things that were just better pros than other places, and that led you to purple and gold, obviously. Um, so I'm sure you knew a bit about the university. like you were saying. Um, but was there anything that stuck out to you about, the soccer program or just the school in general when you arrived on campus in your freshman year? Was there anything that sort of hit you by surprise, or did you kind of already have that general understanding of what it was like on Montlake?
So like when I first, are you talking about like the recruiting process or when I first came in?
Oh yeah, no, when you first came in. Sorry.
When I first came in, it was just like the culture is just unbelievable. Like the coaches, obviously, Jeff Rowland, Jamie Clark, Rich Reese, Chris Gores, all those guys. Like when I first came in, just like made me feel so at home, and like especially the older guys too would just like kind of take you under their wing. And I got really close to like a bunch of the older junior guys because we went on a trip to Brazil when I first got to UW, which was super fun. And like it's just like the culture here is just unbelievable. Like it's really like a family, and they treat you like that. And I think like my favorite part about when I got there was just like how much the guys just hang out with each other. It's like our own little like fraternity kind of. It's like we literally just spend all our time together, and that's just like been the best part for me.
How did you approach your freshman year in 2018 on the field? Were you just kind of in a state that I'm here to learn right now and just, soaking information from the older guys? Were you maybe a little bit nervous, or did you kind of come in with confidence? How did you really just step into that year on the field in 2018?
I was super nervous. I was definitely terrified when I first got in because I'd had a pretty hard club coach, and that can like definitely hurt your confidence. But
Hmm.
slowly, especially like after, well, interesting story. Freshman year, we were in the tournament, and in the first or second round, we went to a PK shootout, and I missed my PK, and we got knocked out. And I just remember like being on the field, just like crying, and then like my teammates all came to me, and like my coaches, and they all just like kind of like built me back up. And then like that next season, I was like starting and like just way more confident, and it just goes to show how good the culture is here and how like supportive our group is. So, but like, yeah, definitely as a freshman, I came in super nervous, and I thought I was going to play more and didn't play that much. And it's like definitely a shock when you go from playing a lot in club and going to a new program and not getting a lot of minutes.
How would you say that? Obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of things that you could point at, but how would you say that you've changed since that freshman year, whether it be, as a person or on the field? Because, like you said, with COVID last year, I mean, that's a whole off season. I don't know how do you approach that. And I do want to address that in a second here, but how would you say that you've changed, whether it as a player or just as a person, since that year in 2018?
My biggest thing has been my attitude. Um, when it comes to like my individually, like for myself, I think I gained a lot of like confidence and kind of like that like F it feeling. Like if I mess up, I mess up, and my
Mm,
teammates and coaches won't be disappointed in me if I do. They just want you to like work hard. And then on the other hand, it was just like I was kind of a big trash talker in high school. So I think from like senior year of high school and freshman year of college to now, I've definitely just grown a lot in that aspect. Like just being a better competitor and being
hmm.
like more respectful to the other team and other coaches, and just being a better sport, which I think just comes with maturity. But yeah, that's been like my biggest step.
No, that definitely makes sense. It is funny to hear that because it reminds me. I mean, I never obviously got to that college level of soccer, but it reminds me of some of the things that get said on the soccer field there. Um, so then, like you were mentioning with the sophomore year, did you do anything going into that sophomore year just to get better as a player? Because obviously, I'm sure like every year you just want to get better, whether it's whatever different aspects or just as a player as a whole. Did you approach training differently, your game at all differently, or how did you go into sophomore year? You played all 21 matches, the only Husky to start all 21 and help the Huskies record 12 shutouts that year, among other things. But again, back to the main point. Was there anything that you did differently in your approach?
It's just like for me, it was just kind of becoming in that off season, especially just kind of becoming like a psychopath kind of. That's how I see it. Me and some of my teammates just kind of got in this like regimen where we like I like cut out carbs for a little bit, like ate a lot better. Because it can be tough when you come in as a freshman and like have to eat differently, and your
Hmm.
parents aren't cooking food for you anymore. I'm sure you've had that experience. And it's just like I just started like I got into this like mentality of like just trying to become like the fittest I've ever become. And
Mm.
then just mentality of like in my mind, just like working with a strength coach like every day to like win that beep test that we do at the beginning of every preseason. It just like it improves your mental fitness, which then improves your physical fitness, in my opinion.
You spoke a little bit on it already, but what has the atmosphere in that locker room been like? Can you talk a little bit more about that? Maybe a little bit more so, considering this past year where no Husky team since '87 has won more conference games. Obviously, guys like Lucas Meek, who I'm pretty sure you know pretty well,
Yeah.
Dylan Teves, who had a great year. I mean, a lot of the guys had great years. Um, but what's the atmosphere and the camaraderie like in that locker room, especially this last year?
I mean, it's like amazing. Like those are all these guys like you even like the two you mentioned, Dylan Teves and Lucas Meek, like those are two of my like best friends. And it's just like obviously like the freshman coming in is like always probably the biggest like team switch, but after a couple months they definitely also just really mended with the group. And not having a locker room was tough. It took longer and it was harder to build that chemistry up again, but I think just playing again and training is just all you really need. And once we're back in the locker room this fall, I think that'll be super fun. I can't wait.
With that being said, playing in the Pac-12, you already mentioned a couple of schools, Stanford and UCLA. Does playing in the Pac-12, is that something that you look forward to, considering the strength of some of the programs within the conference soccer-wise? And is that, something as a team you guys enjoy that challenge of playing the Pac-12? Because I mean, in a majority of sports, I know there's some that's not the case. The Pac-12 has pretty strong programs. Like if I think of obviously soccer, but as well as softball, they had to play. UCLA, I think, was ranked second, and UW got screwed with scheduling. That's another topic.
Yeah.
Um, but you get the point. Is that a challenge that you, as well as the team, they greet openly, considering the strength of those programs?
Yeah, we absolutely like love it. Every Pac-12 game is it can go either way. And that's what I love about it. It's like even like the lowest teams in our conference, not to put anything against SDSU, but they have in the recent years tended to not be as strong of a program, and they beat us last year at their place, and then we won in overtime, and they showed that like even as like the weaker team, they're just as good as any one of us, and I think that's pretty cool because it shows how strong our conference is, even though it might not show as well with committees like we saw with softball.
No, yeah, like you were saying, um, that is cool to see that sort of parity, where it's not like there's anybody that's just a guaranteed you can just look at on the schedule and, kind of strike. I don't think you should ever do that, but
Mm.
I think you get the point. Um, so moving along here, is there any particular thing, maybe person that you idolized that you attribute your playmaking and assists to? Because I believe over the past season you had the second most assists in the NCAA. So is that just something that you try to work on in your game? Is that playmaking, or is there somebody that you looked up to where you could kind of, take bits and pieces of that from? Where does the your playmaking come from in your game?
Um, I've always I've always kind of looked up to guys like Marcelo. He like plays in Real Madrid, but I just like I love the feeling of like assists because obviously I don't play forward, so it's harder to score, but like an assist feels just as good to me because like you kind of make your teammates feel better and that builds them confidence. And I think it's just like kind of that camaraderie you get when you like make the kind of like special connection on like a goal. And like they kind of feel like, oh, they might owe you one after you give them a pass like that. And I kind of like that feeling. It's kind of a fun little game we like to do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um, this kind of ties back almost to the Pac-12 because it could be a Pac-12 answer. It could be a different field. Do you have a favorite field that you've played on in your time at UW, or does that not something that you ever pay attention to? They're all just kind of indifferent to you, or is there somewhere that you enjoy going out there and playing on that surface?
Honestly, I think my favorite field is probably Seattle U's. They have a really nice field. I really like their field.
Um, do you notice any sort of significant difference between the Nike jerseys and the Adidas jerseys? Because that's something that's interesting. In speaking with Morgan Flores, she said that they had time to work with Nike to really build up what they liked in a jersey, right? What felt best, how wasn't getting in the way. Um, and I know some people are one brand or the other, regardless. as an athlete, as a player who actually wears the stuff, is there any difference to you? Do you have a preference, or you're just out there to play? You don't really care what it is.
I grew up always using Nike, and when we were changing, I was kind of frustrated, but actually, like, I've grown to notice and see that like the Adidas clothing is actually a lot more comfortable than the Nike clothing, in my opinion. And the only thing that was difficult was just transitioning from like Nike cleats to Adidas cleats. There's a lot of wear and tear, and you're cutting, and like there were a lot of blisters in the beginning from our whole team. It was a tough switch, but I think we've all gotten kind of used to it.
Just finding what works best for you, kind of a feeling out process.
Yeah, just
Yeah, that makes
comfortability.
sense.
Yeah, it's everything.
Yeah, no, like same as you. I always kind of grew up using Nike stuff. Like I'm only using this because of what I'm wearing. Normally I have this one, but
Mhm.
our buddy Kate Otten on the football team, I don't know why he was nice enough to give me this hat, and it's a lot more breathable. And I don't know, it's I'm growing used to it. It's kind of funny how it works, but that's kind of a sticking point to me because obviously, in a lot of sports as fans, the jerseys are one thing, but when you're wearing them, I'm sure it's a whole different thing, depending on brand and how it feels. So that's always something that I try to see how each player kind of feels about it. So you spoke about it right in the beginning about how 2020 was just like an extended preseason. Um, what did you do to, if anything, what did you do to sort of keep yourself on top of your game over 2020? Because I'm sure that facilities were difficult to deal with, and it might have been difficult to get different guys to train together and all that sort of thing. How did you work around 2020, and what did you do to build up to this past year?
Well, it was so weird, first of all, because when COVID first hit, we were like, all right, like, worst case scenario is we're probably starting a season in the fall. And so we're like, okay, like, it's probably good to get fit now. Like, let's like, and so I would run like first of all, our strength coach would give us like running lifts to do like Monday through Friday. And then I'd also train with this personal trainer called EJ.
Yep.
He's like a local guy. And I think like my biggest struggle was like I got shin splints in the beginning because I'd just be sprinting down like the road and not on like an actual field because like, everything was closed
Yeah.
and couldn't hang out with teammates. Couldn't. So it was weird. I was like working out with my family, just a little different, and running on the street, which was very painful. But yeah, it was mainly just like a mental thing. I think like trying to stay positive and make the most out of the situation and try to see the moment as like a way to get better when other people maybe weren't, because it was definitely tough to push past those boundaries.
Yeah, that that makes sense. Having to adjust from using obviously a practice field or any field at all as compared to, I don't know, running on a sidewalk or something. That yeah, that can definitely be a pretty good setback. But I mean, um, I don't know if it was how you helped train in that season or what you did leading up to 21, because you had the most assists by a Husky since '98. Long list of accomplishments that I went down, including Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. Which I will ask, do you look at those accomplishments and, I mean, do you give yourself a pat on the back, or do you want to just continue to grow and get better? Or do you give yourself time to really kind of soak back and say, hey, I did this? That's defensive player of the year in the Pac-12. That's got to be, like we were saying, even with the other programs in the conference, that's got to be a pretty significant honor. How do you really view these awards?
I definitely appreciate it, and I think what feels even better is just like when my family gets to like experience that with me because they've kind of put me in the position to like succeed, and I think what makes me happiest is just making them proud and making like all of my family proud. And I'm definitely like one of those people though where I'm never really satisfied, and I always want to get better every year. So next year the goal is to win it again and maybe win even more stuff, but team wise, not individually, because it's just been frustrating not going farther than the Elite Eight. And I kind of want to make a college cup. And we kind of have a joke about the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year thing because we make jokes like with my coaches and my roommate Ethan Barlow, who won it last year, that like I'm not really a defender because I am mainly attacking. So Yeah.
It is interesting, because I mean, we talked about the playmaking and
Mhm.
then, defensive play. So, I mean, at least in my eyes, it's like, hey, you've got both of them. But yeah, I can see where that would come from. Taking a look back at last year, and we got one more thing to touch on for last year because I'm sure it's like, hey, that happened, and you want to get away from that. Do you have a favorite game from last year? Because, like you said, with SDSU, that was a game that 3-2 in overtime. I'm pretty sure you guys beat Stanford when they were ranked second, 1-0. Back here at home, is there a game that you remember the most, or you enjoyed the most, or uh, what would your pick be for that?
It was definitely the Stanford game at home when we beat them. Just like those games are always just like it's ridiculous. Anyone could win that. It's one play, it's one goal. It's never a two-goal game. And we scored in like the 88th minute. And I just remember that game being like one of my better defensive games. I just like got into some like pretty big tackles and it's just so satisfying, especially against them. And I just remember when Dylan scored, it was just like the most like we just sprint to the sideline with all of our teammates and like jumping and it's just you just get like shivers. Just like the best feeling in the world.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So to take the detour back to the tournament, what sort of things do you remember from the times you've been in the tournament, as well as is there anything that this team is looking to improve on heading into this season, or is it just sort of being better as a team and working to obviously, like you were saying, get past that Elite Eight, get to a college cup? Is there anything that you remember from those tournaments, and what sort of things do you think this team would look to improve on?
I think it was a tough year because like the whole obviously COVID was made everything weird, but we lost like I think seven starters from last year to this year. So it was like inserting guys like Ryan Saylor and Kendall Burks at center back, like two brand new center backs who played awesome. But like, and we've all talked about this as a team, but it's just like kind of learning how to like play a little better and be a little more brave because with a new team, there's nerves and we want to get the ball quicker. I mean, forward quickly. And I think it was just like that adjustment and getting those guys confidence has been big. And I think next year we're going to be even better than we were last year. And I'm just super excited for that because we just have more tournament experience now than we've ever had before.
Is there anything that you specifically are training and working on now in order to continue to elevate your game? Because I know, in trying to set up, I know you like I think you mentioned it. You were working with a trainer. Is there anything that you try to work on, or is it just trying to be versatile, just trying to be uh, work on playmaking, work on the defensive side? Is there anything that Charlie Ostrom looks to improve on, or is it just being better as a whole?
Definitely being better as a whole, but like specifically, I think the two things I've been trying to work on this summer is just like first being like a better leader, reaching out to all the freshmen, making sure everyone's working hard, reaching out to the guys who maybe slack off more during the off season and trying to get them to make sure that they're on their stuff. And I think second, just working on like maybe my defensive focus because I was obviously so attack minded last year that I want to make sure that like pro teams know that I can still defend because I know I'm still a good defender, but it's just like making sure I can like turn that switch from offense to defense quicker.
So if say I erase soccer from your background, what sort of things do you think you would be pursuing right now? If because obviously, there's got to be something major wise. Uh, what sort of things would you pursue? You think?
I'm a business major
Hmm.
and I don't know if that's exactly what I would be doing, but I do enjoy like the real estate and kind of helping people with like consulting stuff, like maybe like as a financial advisor. I feel like that'd be fun. But I also like talking about like maybe politics. I feel like that's interesting to me. And yeah, I think I'd just be traveling a lot more if I wasn't playing soccer because I love to travel too.
Well, in both real estate and politics, I'm sure you know you're in a good area for that up here. So,
Yeah.
no, I appreciate you have coming on. Um, for those who don't know, this was Charlie's been a busy guy. I think I tried reaching out before the tournament, and then the tournament comes on. And obviously, it can't bother him during the tournament. So it's cool to get this set up. Is there anything that you want to promote? I always put socials down in the description of these. I know it'll be exciting to get more people back in the stands because I believe it was just family and maybe close friends, if anything,
Yeah.
in the stands. So that'll be exciting to get back this upcoming year. Is there anything that you want to put out there, whether it's coming to the games or just anything that you want to put in the world?
Yeah, I think we just definitely appreciate when people come to the games because it just like helps create part of that atmosphere and just like love playing. And I think it drives me to work harder when I see fans there. So I think just come out to the games if you can.
That is one thing I learned from my time at O'Day is to make sure you go to the events you can, because that is something that I really enjoyed. And especially, I think everybody can attest to that. Having last year, should take advantage of going to these games. So, and this is a pretty good program. I mean, I'm not just BSing either. You know, like you said, Elite Eight's pretty damn good. Obviously, that's not what you want to stop at, but this has been a good program for years. So, wouldn't hurt to go support the other guy named Charlie here. Um, just mess around. But yeah, no, it's good to have you on, and excited, really excited for next year. Like you were saying, guys, so many a good amount of guys coming back. I don't know how many guys are we losing this year.
I think just one, Cole Grimsby, because he left for a job, which is completely understandable.
Oh yeah, no, I mean just even losing one guy too, and obviously best of luck in his endeavors, but getting those guys back, I'm sure, is a big plus. And like you were saying, making sure that they're on top of your game, but also like you've been doing, making sure to take some time off for yourself. I don't know, maybe I don't know if it'd work, but try to see and get can get you out to the Sounders game again. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I appreciate having you on and excited for next year. And hope you enjoy your off season here.
Thank you.